The Young and the Restless spoilers shock Monday full episodes August 11, 2025. Victor Newman sat at the head of the conference table, his fingers steepled in front of him as he surveyed the room with his usual calculating gaze. The walls of his office in Newman Enterprises reflected the power and control he had wielded for decades. But today, there was a different tension in the air. His plan was coming together, but there was still one key piece that needed to fall into place: Cain Ashby. Victor had never trusted Cain, and he was far from satisfied with the way things had played out with him and Lily. Cain's return had stirred up far too many questions, and it was time for him to make a deal. A deal that would keep him in control and put Cain in his place. "Make sure Cain knows exactly what he's up against," Victor said to his assistant as he leaned back in his chair, a slight smirk on his lips. His mind was already calculating the moves. Cain would either fall in line or face the consequences. There was no room for failure. Meanwhile, across town, Adam Newman was having a different kind of conversation, one that was no less intense, but far more personal. Sitting across from Chelsea Lawson in her apartment, Adam could see the confusion in her eyes, but he knew what needed to be done. His father's plan was in motion, but Chelsea's loyalty to Billy was an obstacle he needed to eliminate. "You need to choose a side, Chelsea," Adam said, his voice steady but insistent. "Victor is going to make his move against Cain, and there's no way around it. You can either stand with us, or you can continue protecting Billy. But you can't have both." Chelsea looked at him, her expression torn. "Adam, what are you asking me to do? You know I care about Billy. I always have. I can't just turn my back on him now, not after everything he's done for me." Adam's jaw clenched as he leaned forward. "It's not about Billy. It's about the family. About protecting what's ours. Cain is trying to tear us apart, and Billy might be part of that. Victor wants revenge for what happened in Nice, and he will stop at nothing to get it." Chelsea shook her head, the pieces starting to fall into place. "So, you're saying Billy's working with Cain to take down Newman Enterprises? That's ridiculous." Adam leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "It's not ridiculous, Chelsea. Billy's always had a way of worming his way into the middle of everything. Cain, Billy, they're both dangerous to this family. You need to open your eyes." Chelsea took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had always known that Billy and Cain were close, but this was a different kind of accusation. If Billy was truly involved in something against the Newmans, she needed proof. Otherwise, she couldn't make that decision, not yet. "And if I can't get proof? What then?" Chelsea asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. "You expect me to just trust your father's word on this?" Adam's gaze softened, but only slightly. "You have to trust him, Chelsea. He's never steered me wrong. And if Victor believes Billy's involved, that's enough for me. We need to strike first, before they make their move." Chelsea was silent for a long moment, contemplating Adam's words. She was caught between the loyalty she had to Billy, the man who had always stood by her, and the reality of the situation that Adam was presenting. She couldn't ignore what was at stake, but she also couldn't ignore the man she had once loved. "I need more than just suspicions, Adam," Chelsea said firmly. "If I'm going to side with your family, I need solid proof that Billy is working with Cain. Otherwise, I won't be a part of this. I won't destroy the one person who's always had my back without evidence." Adam's eyes darkened as he leaned forward again. "If Victor can prove it, Chelsea, will you believe him? Because if this is true, we'll need to act quickly. We can't afford to wait for more evidence to fall into our lap. Cain won't hesitate to go after us, and neither will Billy if he's in on it." Chelsea's lips pressed together in frustration. "I'll need to see the proof before I make any decisions. If this is just some baseless rumor, I won't help you take down someone I care about. But if Billy is part of this, then I won't hesitate to help you end it." Adam nodded, his expression hardening. "Then we wait. But don't take too long to make up your mind, Chelsea. Because Victor won't wait forever. And neither will I. Back at Newman Enterprises, Victor's plans were already moving ahead. He had known for a while that Cain was a wild card in his plans, and now it was time to remove him from the equation, permanently. But first, he had to get Cain to accept his terms. Victor's assistant knocked on the door before entering, and with a brief nod, she handed him a file. "Cain is in the building, Mr. Newman. He'll be here in a few minutes." Victor smiled, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. "Perfect. Let's see if he's ready to play by my rules." When Cain entered the office, he was met with Victor's piercing gaze. Cain could feel the tension in the air, and he knew what was coming. He had been expecting this meeting, but he wasn't prepared for the terms Victor was about to lay out. Victor didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Cain," he said, his voice sharp, "you've made your intentions clear. But now, it's time to make a deal. You'll help me in taking down Billy Abbott and anyone else who gets in the way of our family's future. In return, I'll ensure that Lily and your son are protected. If you don't, well, let's just say things won't go well for you." Cain stood still for a moment, his mind racing. He had always known that Victor was a man who operated on power, and Cain had never been one to back down from a challenge. But the stakes were higher now. His family's future was on the line, and he couldn't afford to make the wrong choice. "I'll need more than just your word, Victor," Cain said, his voice steady. "If I'm going to do this, I need something concrete. A guarantee that Lily and my son won't be collateral damage in your war with the Abbotts." Victor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You'll have what you need, Cain. But you're in this with me now. There's no turning back. We move forward together, or not at all." The tension between them was palpable, and Cain knew he had no choice. He could either ally with Victor and secure his family's future, or he could walk away and risk losing everything. As Cain left Victor's office, his mind was clouded with doubt, but one thing was clear, his decision had been made. Whether he liked it or not, he was now part of Victor's plan. And it was a plan that would either make him or break him. This expanded narrative delves into the character motivations and builds the suspense surrounding the power plays between Victor, Cain, Adam, and Chelsea. The stakes are high, and the plot is driven by intense, personal choices. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments or further expansions. Chelsea's fingers hovered over her phone as she stared at the screen, lost in thought. Adam's words had been lingering in her mind, gnawing at her from every angle. She knew what she had to do. The lines between loyalty and family were growing increasingly blurred, and the pressure was mounting. She had always trusted Billy, but this was different. If he truly was working against Victor and the family, if he was truly involved with Cain in some twisted plot, then she had no choice but to act. "I think I can get the information we need," Chelsea said, her voice low but firm, finally breaking the silence that had settled between her and Adam. "I can convince Billy that I'm still on his side, that I'm the voice of reason." Adam's eyebrows lifted, but he didn't interrupt. His expression was a mixture of doubt and skepticism. "You really think you can pull that off?" he asked, his voice cautious but laced with a hint of hope. Chelsea nodded slowly, her mind working through the plan. "I've always known how to get through to him. I know his weaknesses, his fears. I can make him see that we're not the enemy. I can make him believe that we're all on the same side." She paused, her gaze turning steely. "But if he's really part of this, if he's really working with Cain to go after us, then I won't hesitate. I'll expose him." Adam leaned back in his chair, contemplating her words. His eyes darkened slightly, but his voice remained steady. "I know you care about him, Chelsea. I know how much he means to you. But it's time to put family first. Cain is no longer just a business rival, he's a threat. If Billy is involved in that, then he's a threat too. It's time to stop protecting him and start protecting us." Chelsea swallowed hard, the weight of Adam's words sinking in. It wasn't easy. It would never be easy. But she knew Adam was right. She couldn't afford to be blinded by past loyalties. Not when her future, and the future of the people she loved, was on the line. "I'll do what I have to do," Chelsea said quietly, her voice firm but filled with a quiet determination. "I'll get the truth from Billy. I just hope I'm not too late." Meanwhile, at the other end of Genoa City, Cain was already deep in conversation with Victor, his own mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He had been avoiding Victor's calls all evening, but the man was persistent, always a step ahead. Cain had hoped for a quiet night to himself, a moment of peace before the storm hit. But Victor had other plans. "Cain," Victor's voice crackled over the phone, smooth and commanding, as always. "I know you're still awake. Why don't you come by the farm tonight? I've got some things to discuss with you." Cain's jaw tightened as he leaned against the desk, glancing at the clock. It was late, far later than he'd intended to be up. But this was Victor. The last person he could afford to ignore. "I'm not going anywhere tonight, Victor," Cain replied, his voice curt, tinged with weariness. "It's too late for me." Victor chuckled on the other end of the line, his tone mocking. "Too late for you? Come on, Cain, it's just a little late-night chat. Surely you can spare a few minutes. Besides, you wouldn't want to disappoint me, would you?" He paused, savoring the moment before adding with a smirk, "Come on over to the farm, and I'll make sure you don't regret it." Cain didn't respond immediately. He knew Victor's games well. He knew this was part of the deal. Victor always had a way of pulling him into his schemes, no matter how unwilling Cain was to play along. With a sigh, Cain decided there was no way around it. "Fine," he muttered. "I'll be there." Unbeknownst to Victor, however, there was someone else in Cain's office, a presence that was both familiar and unsettling. Phyllis Summers, always one to stir up trouble, had been quietly sitting in the corner, her fingers tapping nervously on the edge of the desk as she observed the exchange between Cain and Victor. Victor didn't know it yet, but Phyllis had been an unexpected participant in Cain's plans, though her role remained shrouded in secrecy. Cain turned to her, his expression unreadable. He knew the time was coming when they would have to confront their shared history and the reasons Phyllis had remained at his side. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was personal. "What are you still doing here, Phyllis?" Cain asked, his tone more forceful than he intended. Phyllis stood slowly, her eyes narrowing in amusement. "I'm here because I've been useful. I've passed your little tests. I've done everything you've asked of me, Cain." Her lips curled into a sly smile. "But now, I think it's time we talk about what's next." Cain didn't flinch. "You passed my tests, Phyllis," he replied. "But that doesn't mean I won't challenge you every step of the way. I need your skills, and I'm not going to let you off the hook so easily." He paused, letting his words hang in the air before continuing. "I want you to hack into Jabot's system, Newman Enterprises, Chancellor, and Winters. Think you can handle that?" Phyllis raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. "Why would I need to do that, Cain?" "We're going shopping," Cain said flatly, his voice betraying nothing of his true intentions. The tension between them was palpable, but Phyllis had learned long ago that Cain was a man who never showed all his cards at once. At the same time, Cain prepared to meet Victor at the farm, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. When he arrived, Victor was already waiting, standing by the expansive window of the farmhouse, his arms folded across his chest. The setting sun cast a golden hue over the land, but the atmosphere inside was far from serene. "I know you've been making moves in this town, Cain," Victor said, his voice low and filled with knowing. "Buying up property, making connections. I'm sure you're feeling pretty good about it, huh?" Cain remained silent, his eyes scanning the room, feeling the subtle shift in Victor's tone. He knew this conversation wouldn't be as simple as Victor letting him off the hook. Victor's gaze never left Cain as he spoke again. I can imagine you must have been furious when Nikki wanted to sell Chancellor to me, just to free Nick. That must have been a hard pill to swallow, huh? Cain's jaw tightened at the mention of Nikki. He had always been suspicious of her motivations, especially when it came to family matters. But he had bigger problems now. Much bigger. I'm not here to talk about Nikki, Cain replied, his voice cutting through the tension. What's the real reason you wanted to see me, Victor? Victor smirked. It's not just about business, Cain. It's about loyalty, about power. And you, my friend, are standing on the edge of something far bigger than you realize. As Victor's words hung in the air, Cain felt a surge of dread. He had made his choice to align with Victor, but at what cost? And would his loyalties to Lily, to his family, hold up in the face of what was to come? This expanded narrative weaves the key elements of intrigue, betrayal, and complex character motivations, exploring the shifting dynamics between Cain, Victor, Chelsea, and Adam. The stage is set for a dramatic confrontation where allegiances will be tested, and the stakes will only continue to rise. If you need further additions or revisions, feel free to let me know. Victor Newman's eyes narrowed slightly, but his face betrayed no emotion. He had been in this game for too long to let anything throw him off course. Cain's words had been calculated, a challenge, one that could either pay off or backfire spectacularly. Still, Victor wasn't in the business of making mistakes. He had lived through too many failures to let one more slip through his fingers. That's a risky move, Cain, Victor finally said, his voice cold and measured, his hands clasped in front of him as he stood tall. I'm not sure I'd recommend it. Cain, however, wasn't deterred. He knew Victor's tricks. The game of manipulation, the slow burn of waiting for the right moment, and the heavy weight of a decision not yet made. Cain wasn't afraid to take risks. It was what had brought him this far, and it was what would take him further. It's worth the risk, Cain replied, his voice firm, the glint in his eyes showing a determination Victor couldn't ignore. Victor's lips quirked into a faint smile, one that spoke volumes of his respect for Cain's resolve. We'll see about that. He paused, letting the silence hang between them like a delicate thread ready to snap. You've made your choice. But if we're going to play this game, Cain, we need to shift our focus. Cain raised an eyebrow. Shift our focus? Victor's gaze locked onto Cain's, sharp and calculating. Forget Chancellor for now. I have a different target in mind. Jabot. Together, we can destroy the Abbots. That's where our attention should be. We'll hit them where it hurts most, at their core. With Jabot in our hands, we'll have the upper hand. We'll own the future. A grin spread slowly across Cain's face. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, a chance to align with Victor for something bigger, something that could change everything. The Abbots were powerful, but their biggest asset, Jabot, was vulnerable. It was a masterstroke, and Cain knew it. I'm in, Cain said, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. We'll take them down together. Victor extended his hand, a gesture of agreement, a promise of power and destruction. Cain shook it firmly, knowing this was the moment where everything would change. The wheels were set in motion, and now there was no turning back. Meanwhile, at Society, Billy Abbott leaned against the bar, his eyes scanning the crowd but his mind elsewhere. He had reached out to Cain about Abbott Communications, hoping for some kind of breakthrough, but his efforts had been met with silence. Frustration churned in his gut as he picked up his drink, swirling it in his glass before taking a long sip. As Billy turned, his brother Jack slid onto the bar stool next to him, a knowing look on his face. What's going on? Jack asked, his voice laced with curiosity. Haven't heard from Cain yet? Billy sighed, rubbing his forehead. No, nothing from him yet. I've been trying to get through to him about Abbott Communications, but so far, nothing. He paused, his eyes flicking to his brother with a trace of uncertainty. Have you heard anything from him? Have you seen him since we last talked? Jack's expression softened slightly, but there was something guarded in his eyes. I have, actually. Jill knows about Cain. She knows he's Demas. Jack's voice was low, as if revealing something that shouldn't have been said out loud. Billy leaned in, his eyes widening. Jill knows? How long has she known? Jack shrugged, his face tense. Longer than I thought. Cain's been playing his cards carefully, but Jill's no fool. She knows. Billy couldn't keep the bitterness from creeping into his voice. Of course she knows. She's always known, hasn't she? And what's worse is, she's keeping secrets now. She didn't even tell me about Chancellor's death. Jack's eyes softened in understanding. Billy, I know it's hard, but Jill's been dealing with a lot. She's got Cain back in her life now. She's finally got the son she's always wanted. Billy clenched his fists, his frustration mounting. Yeah, and now she's completely turned her back on me. After everything we've been through. After everything I've done for her, for this family. He shot Jack a look, his voice bitter. It's clear now. She's done with me. She's got Cain. And what's left for me? Jack took a deep breath, sensing the hurt in his brother's words. Billy, you're still a part of this family. Don't push us away. He hesitated before continuing, his tone shifting. But if you want my advice, you need to stop worrying about Cain and focus on what's next. Chancellor, that's where your focus needs to be. Cain or no Cain, you need to bring it back into the fold. Show Jill that you can run the company without him. Billy's gaze hardened as he stared into his drink, the weight of his brother's words sinking in. You're right. I'll prove her wrong. I'll bring Chancellor back, whether Cain likes it or not. Jack nodded, the faintest flicker of a smile crossing his face. You know what you have to do. Billy turned back to Jack, determination building in his chest. I'll get Chancellor back. I don't need Cain. I'll do it on my own.